so we could watch all this happen.
Yeah.
And then, after they shot all those down, they came charging after us, and then our fighters came up and ran them away. And all we had was one bullet hole. We had a lot of anti-aircraft damage to the plane, but that was something that happened on Christmas Eve when you're
Yeah, I
supposed to be
remember that.
jolly
This one was all-
and wishing everybody Merry Christmas. We were
At that time,
we were shooting at each other, and the general said that war was hell, and he was right.
Well, you say you in the artillery?
yes, on the fuel
Well,
artillery.
he was on a destroyer, and his guns were going so much, it affected his hearing. Did it affect your hearing? Did you have to hold your ears?
Yeah, your job was working with the gun, they had to use earplugs all the time.
Oh,
What were you in?
I was in the Navy,
Oh, yeah, you were in the
Yeah.
Navy, that's right, I'd forgotten that.
so I didn't have any, no, I ended up being a pharmacist mate with the Navy, and I was on Base Hospital 18 on the island of Guam.
What were you in,
We
Bill?
were, my baptism of fire was the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, yeah.
I was in Stavlo, Belgium, when the Tiger tank cranked up his motor on the other side of the bridge and started down my street.
Those were big old tanks.
That's when I ran.
They were big old tanks, weren't they?
We were on the banks of a river there. Our outfit was all busted up,
Yeah,
just went to pieces. And we were on the banks of the river, and we were attached to a straight infantry outfit. They just picked us up. We didn't know where our officers were or anything. And we were 5.5 days, we were on that riverbank eating K rations. And Mike was talking about the weather clearing on Christmas. Christmas Eve, a little guy in our outfit was running up the alley with his bayonet chasing a chicken. And he said, "I'm damned if I'm gonna eat cheese on Christmas." But our cooks came through. We had a heck of a Christmas dinner. They came through.
I remember too, we had a good Christmas dinner that day, and that was the end of it. We had to start moving.
I was in the infantry in that 155 rifle group of our division pulled in down below us, and they set up, and we dug in for the night, and we was below the surface of the land. And we just got bedded down, and those 155 opened up, and I think that's where I lost my hearing.
Probably is.
That's got the damnedest crack of any weapon out. If you're in front of the barrel, it's gonna crack.
Oh, yeah, man,
Oh, man.
that was,
155, even the tank didn't make that much noise.
Well, one thing I don't know if everybody in this group would agree, but I think one thing it taught me when I was 19 years old is war's not the answer.
that's very true.
Killing each other is not gonna get the job
That's
done.
right, that's our problem today.
That's right. And we had a Japanese unit, it's called the Buddha Heads, and they put them on Mona Casino. And Mona Casino was a big mountain, and the Germans had that self-propelled 88.
88s, yeah.
And, I had a picture of it here somewhere. But anyway, they would shell that, and then they'd pull it back in the garage out there, and they took pictures of it, and fly over there and take pictures, and the Germans said they didn't have anything there, but, so we got enough of that, and when I was in the 88th Division, they pulled us back, and before they pulled us back though, they shelled that for 48 hours with 747s, and those big bombs continuously, 48 hours. There wasn't any bush standing on the sides of it, and we sure melted down with that.
Oh, where was that? Was that in Italy or before you got to Italy?
No, that was in Italy.
In Italy.
Monte Cassino. After the Salerno beachhead, they had to stop at this river. There's a river there, and this Monte Cassino was up here like that, and looked right down our throats on the river. And every time they put in a bridge where they blow it up, and so then finally, well, they had to call it a halt there and wait till spring to get a bridge fixed across there. And that had to be under smoke screen all the time.
They were shelling it, were they?
Yeah, they'd blow it out. And we crossed that river one night on a nylon rope. We carried our rifles above our head and held on to the rope with the other hand. And they started through the 03 rifle, they put a grenade launcher on that, and they put an anti-tank grenade on the end of that and shot it across the river. There's a patch of bamboo there. And that grenade hit down in those bushes and got a good anchor, and so that's why we crossed the river.
The Germans destroyed the bridge across the Rhine where I was, and the engineers put up a pontoon bridge, and that's what we crossed the Rhine on,
That's what we had too.
was pontoon bridge.
What time of year was that, Leo?
That was, well, it was after the Battle of the Bulge, so it would have been,
December.
It was cold then.
yes, it was cold.
Okay.
It wasn't as cold then.
It was cold all the time over there, wasn't it?
Oh, you
Yeah.
sure did. You didn't have to carry any in your duffel bag, did you?
I try to keep your feet dry.
Yeah,
There
right.
was trench foot, remember trench
Yeah,
foot?
How could you forget?
Yeah, that's sure right.
Yeah.
You had your overcoat on. In the infantry, we had a long overcoat
Yeah,
and an M1 rifle on our
Shoulder.
and you waited for somebody to get a cigarette out because you didn't want to take your hands out of your pockets. And the first guy that got his hands out of his pockets, give me one of those.
Shoot.
You clicked your feet together to keep them from.
oh, yeah.
Well, we in the Air Corps had a different time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was
you were a
We
different,
would come back to a warm meal and lots of congratulating and all that and.
Yeah, you just got killed
a
in the
nice bed
daytime.
to
We got
sleep
killed
in.
all the time.
That's right there.
But you know, they congratulated us for having a good mission and hitting our target and all that. But we had those 13 airplanes went down. There was at least 130 men in those airplanes, 10 in each airplane, and they were either dead or wounded or prisoner of war left back in Germany, and those were our buddies.
yeah.
So
yes,
we had to think about them
Yeah, you
too.
guys had become pretty
Yeah.
close together, I imagine.
So it was tough. And even though you guys are talking, the 8th Air Corps, which I was in, percentage-wise of people in the Air Corps, we were number one for the amount. There was over 26,000 of us killed.
Killed,
And that is
You know,
true war as hell.
Wherever you
when-
are, whatever outfit you're in though, when you're dead, that's 100%.
That's
Yeah,
very,
100%
that's
dead.
very
That's sure
true.
right, isn't it?
That's very true. I'll go along with you on that.
Well, how many days of inclement weather did you have that you couldn't get to the,
There was just 5 days.
I know it
We
was
would
about a
fly
week
it.
that you
We would
weren't
fly
able-
almost
That's
every
when-
day, sometimes every other day,
that's when,
if we could. If
that's
we-
when we
Yeah.
went through hell.
And I think that's the reason we flew on Christmas Eve.
It probably
Otherwise,
is.
I don't believe they would have.
It was probably the first time that the weather broke enough that you could,
Yeah.
Do you remember when they used to talk about the $1 million wounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you got hit and you weren't terribly wounded
yeah.
and you got sent home, that was $1 million wound.
Yeah, it was.
I laid in a foxhole with a little guy from Ohio, and there was a sniper up on the hill, And this little guy was laying in that hole with his foot up like this, saying, I wanted one of those $1 million balloons.
But he didn't, but the sniper didn't hit him, huh?
So we had a guy in our outfit there, he treated well, we pulled in there just a little before dark and the German shot a shell in there and kaboom, and then a piece of shrapnel went brrrr, whack. And then about time that whack over, some guy yelled, medic, medic, said over there, and bless my soul, his piece of shrapnel cut his big toe. He got $1 million wound.
That was $1 million.
I don't know where he had his foot, whether it was like that or where he had his foot. But that thing purred until it hit his foot. I could hear it hit the foot. Just, I can still remember how it sounded. But before that, there's a Polish army group come there, and right on this next mountain over from that, it was that hall, that they had a cemetery over there, and all those Polish boys was buried in that cemetery. And today, they've got stones.
Young people that were
On their cemetery.
talking to today, I'm sure they've seen the Marines raising the flag on Iwo Jima. Well, Base Hospital 18, where I was, when that came about, we got all of the wounded of the Marines at our hospital. Prior to that, the USS Hope came in earlier, and we had to unload numerous casualties from that. I never will forget, took us from about 3 o'clock one morning to 1 o'clock the next morning to get them all unloaded, because we only had, I think, 3 ambulances, and they only held about 4 each. But on the Iwo Jima thing, when the Marines got the island secured, the Marines would be wounded in the morning, and by the afternoon, they'd be in a hospital. So we were able to take care of them in pretty good shape. But as we all know, we lost thousands of good Marines on that island.
That's
And,
that's the way it goes with all of them, when you lose a lot of good men.
Oh my Lord, yeah. Terrible.
Have any of you been back over to see the national cemeteries over in France or Belgium?
I have,
Have you been over
I
there?
have,
I guess it's something pretty nice. I haven't ever seen it, but
there in Normandy, there's 75 graves, 75,000 graves in one cemetery.
You walk in one of those places and you feel like you're on hallowed ground.
yep, I think you're right.
And you feel
Just the closeness to.
a religious experience.
Yep, it's.
That's, I think many of us do.
I've never been there, but I've seen on TV and stuff that those resting places are well taken care of.
They sure are.
They are, they're
Beautiful.
beautiful.
They are.
Well maintained,
Yeah.
they sure are.
This is our cemetery there in Italy.
Were you in the Pacific?
No, I was during the Korean War in the.
Oh, in the Korean
Yeah,
War?
uh-huh.
He was a little younger, Joe.
When World War II was over, I was 15 years old.
Oh, you're just a
I
kid.
missed it.
You're just a kid.
Yeah. So they got me the next one, okay?
Graduated from Lafayette, I had to get a deferment to keep from being drafted out of high school.
They was waiting for
I
you,
was
Joe.
18 in February,
Yeah.
and I got a deferment, and
That's
I graduated on Thursday night, and I got my greetings on Monday morning.
Oh, Charlie, she was
Yeah.
on this destroyer, and their
That's what I'm
mission,
You
talking
on the destroyer?
Yeah, here's
Yes.
a,
Yeah.
he was on a destroyer, and their mission was to tear up the ground where the Koreans were. So they were all telling them about
We,
being offshore
an
and then,
Italian sculptor made the monument.
destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
We collected,
and their mission was to tear up the roads.
American money. I don't know where that
The
was
thing
from.
that made me feel good is, I shot at a guy, I think I missed him. So I never killed anybody, but nobody killed me, so, you know.
That's the same way with us. We didn't know that we killed somebody, but when you drop
You never
bomb,
knew-
you're
never knew
bound
what
to
the
kill
results
somebody.
were.
And as far as shooting, I never did see a plane go down that I shot at, but it could have later affected the airplane, and he might have died on landing or something. There were so many ways that we could die. If we had a full bomb load, a full gas load,
Yeah, that's right.
and take it off in the morning, if you would lose an engine, you had it. You would either
You were
go off the
fortunate
end of
that
the
you-
runway and explode, or
You were fortunate your group stayed together.
yeah. And then the same way on landing when you come back.
Yeah, sure.
We had, when we came back from that mission I was telling, there was one plane that was about a mile from our field. When he ran out of gas, it crashed. It was great, except for the one time we were shot down in France. We stayed all night, and I don't think we even got any food that night.
Probably didn't. You
and
probably did. You
and
probably
our-
did ration.
Our missions would run from 8 to 10 hours, so.
You
we
remember
were
those old K
flying.
rations? They all
Yeah.
had 3 cigarettes.
That's right.
I smoked a lot of Fleetwoods.
And some OD toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spam, get a lot of spam.
Yeah, we got some.
Every once in a while, you'd open a K ration and there'd be 4 Luckies in there.
Yeah, that's-
You thought you'd died and gone to heaven, you got lucky.
We took a train down to Hampton Roads. We boarded our ship there at midnight, and they took us out in the ocean down south, I don't know how far. And then they dropped anchor down there, Devil's Triangle, they call it, whatever that means. And the captain, 3 days later, he come up on the deck and he said, "Men, I guess you seen what you put your bricks bags on. It's 500-pound bombs. We've been loaded, the whole ship."
Oh, well,
He said, "You don't have a thing to worry about, because if we're hit, you'll be in heaven in the twinkle of an eye." And we had to live with that for 28 days across the Atlantic Ocean. That convoy had 87 ships in it. We had some British tankers, and they could only do 10 miles an hour, 4 knots, I think we call it that. But anyway, we zigzagged across the equator, and we kept track of all of our trash, and we dumped it over, weighted down with a concrete block, or concrete blocks
to sink it.
so.
I went over on a Liberty ship, it wagged its
Yeah,
tail
that's-
all the way across,
That's
21 days.
That's when I came back in. I thought, my God, I made it through the war and
Was
gonna
it the day
get killed
before?
before I get back home and
I got so sick, I thought I was gonna die, and I was afraid I wouldn't.
I didn't think we'd ever make it. That thing would go up and boom, down and jump on those waves.
And coming home was just as bad. We hit a storm coming home and came home on a Liberty, then it took us 3 weeks to come home.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think we 10 days coming home.
I don't know.
But I had a pretty good ship going over. It was a luxury liner.
Oh,
And they
man.
converted it to a troop ship. Those
Yeah,
bunks are stacked up about 6 high.
The bunks were about 6 high?
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
I got the top bunk because I figured if anybody's gonna throw up. There was a guy next to me, they put him in the hospital. I don't think he got out of that bunk for 3 weeks.
He was sick.
Oh, he was dying.
We flew our own plane.
Yeah, that's
over.
right. You didn't
And
have to put
we
up
had
with
it
that
all
crap, did you?
decorated up, and boy, that was gonna be our plane. As soon as we got over there, they took it and put it into battle right away. So you guys are gonna have to go to a few lectures before you go over, so we didn't get our own plane. Then we lost the one over France, and then the next day they gave us one, and the next day we were back flying a mission.
You know, I came home and one of the things that impressed me so, when we came into Boston Harbor and came in on a train to, I don't remember the name of the fort.
Miles
Or-
Standish.
Savage,
Standish, Miles Standish.
we came in there to ship out the next
Yeah,
day.
that's-
I mean, we didn't hang around there.
No, we didn't either.
But I looked around that, riding that train out, and the houses were made out of wood. And I had gradually adjusted to all the houses being stone and rock and everything, you know, I just didn't, I never thought about it until I came home. And there's houses with wood siding, I couldn't believe it.
I crossed on the JB, no, the U.S. Jonathan Worth,
Where'd you ship out from?
Hampton Roads.
Hampton Roads?
And then I come back on the Jane B. Richardson. They were right aside of us when we were going over. And we, like you said in your storm, we got in a storm there off of Azores, and the bow would come down and about a tub full of water would come down the vent tube. And then it would come up like this, and then it sounded like it was gonna break the crankshaft off the back end. It would just bang, it would go. So then it rolled over another, rolled over into a hole, and my buddy and I would peeling potatoes down in the galleyway, and that went over so far that there was 2 cartons of frozen beef hanging there and some 20-gallon milk cans in the freezer, and they come loose and hit that freezer door, and that was that thick and on their hinges about like that, and they sheared off and come out there in the galleyway. We went topside, we never come back. And we didn't have any cooks to cook in the kitchen after that, so we had sea biscuits and apples was all we had from there on in. And I'll tell you, there's not a bit of salt in a sea biscuit.
We came back on a troop ship, I don't know, I forgot how many days,
Yeah.
but we had so many missions to complete, and then we didn't have to fly anymore. So I came back before the war ended. I was back in the States before the war ended.
Did, Joe, did you go over in convoy?
Yes,
We did too. You go
We had
this way,
110
then you go that way.
we wagged her tail all the way across.
And on either side of you had,
I guess it was the destroyer, was it?
Yeah, I think
It was a little ship that was fast.
I tell you, you was lucky to go across the Atlantic without getting sunk with all Hitler's U-boats. He had submarines, the top of the class,
yeah.
and they took a big toll for them ships
You had-
going across
You
the
had a lot
Atlantic.
of them too.
They called them the wolf pack.
Yeah.
That's why they took the southern route to ship us over instead of going through the north. It wasn't, it hadn't been sinking any down south. But, getting back to the war was over, why, General Clark, had me to call a division together with my trumpet, and, so, he said, all men, we held out down there in a big field, there's just west of Venice. Said all men with 2 years service is going home and be discharged. And the rest of you boys are gonna have to work around here and clean this mess and police this area for the rest of your 2 years. Well, I only had 18 months overseas, and so I had to stay in the division, come home and got discharged. And long in August, why they said, well, your time's up. You go down to Naples and we'll put you on the ship. Well, we got down to Naples and stayed in some old castle or something down there on the bay of Naples. I don't know whether that's where mosquitoes got to me or what, but anyway, I was taking a handful of pills every day. And when we got halfway across the Atlantic Ocean, Harry Truman dropped the A-bomb. And I took that handful of pills and just threw it as far as I could. He said, you boys go home, get a 30-day leave and on to Tokyo. And I threw it just as far as I could, and bless my soul, I come down with malaria 10 days later. And I went over to Leavenworth at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where at Fort Leavenworth was inducted. I went in the hospital unit over there, and I didn't see any doctor, nobody. I went back where the boys in the bunk beds, and I said, is this bed taken? They said, no, it isn't. I said, it is now.
They were sending bus loads down to be inducted, you know, physical. And we went through all our physicals, and we were laying out in the shade by a barracks down in Leavenworth, and some basic training flunky came by and said, "I want you guys on your feet, police this area." And there was a little guy next to me, and he said, "I ain't in your army yet, fella." And he just laid there. And I thought, this is a guy I'm hanging around with. He knows what he's doing.
He knew his way around.
He wasn't picking up a cigarette butt until he got sworn in.
I guess that was about the first thing we did when we went.
But you've got a birthday coming up
I
in a
sure
week.
have.
You're
This
gonna
time next
be
week, I'll be
99,
99.
99 years old.
Sure will, next Thursday.
Next Thursday, that's great. They ought to have a cake out there about this big around.
I think they're gonna do something, I don't know what.
What day is it? When is it?
What date of the
What-
13th,
13th of
November
this-
the 13th.
Oh, November, oh.
I think they ought to fire a salute.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just a kid, I'll turn
There-
90 in June.
I think most of us are in our nineties that were in World War II,
Yeah.
or very close.
I was one of the older ones inducted. I was 27 when I went
Yeah.
into the Army. And I guess probably I wouldn't have had to go, but they told me I was going to be inducted. They said if you volunteer for induction, you can get your choice of branches. So I thought, well, that sounded like a good deal. So I said, I think I'll go in the Air Corps. I wound up in field artillery.
Well, I did one better. I did the same thing, and I wanted to get in the Air Corps, and I did.
You managed to do it, but I didn't.
I made it. I beat the draft.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of guys in my class in high school, 43, quit school and volunteered.
Was it?
And I had really no desire to be a hero. I thought, if I'm laying over there with a hole in me, I don't want them saying, "You got yourself into this." I'd let them draft me.
Yeah. I went to Leavenworth when I was, and got my orders, and so I volunteered for the cadets. And they put me all through the test and everything, and they said, "Well, you're colorblind." I said, "That won't hurt you." So then they put a long board trough down there, and it had 2 compartments. And then they had 2 ropes out here, and they had 2 little pieces of wood that I had to line those up the same place. It sounds simple, but they said, "Mister," and I said, "Oh, come on, give me another shot at that." "Okay, mister." So I did that, and he says, "We can't take you." Said, "You'll never fly an airplane," because
You know, I've really enjoyed this talk. You know, I never knew all of you had those experiences, but
Yeah.
it was nice.
It is nice to,
Yeah.
just to hear everybody's
talk to them.
experiences.
Yeah, I enjoyed.
Where did you?
Did you all,
Joe?
you all had KP?
Yeah.
KP? Well, I enjoy, by the grace of God, I maintain my weight, but I learned in the Navy that I watched the chow, well, I had to serve on the chow line,
Okay.
like everybody.
Yeah.
And I got to watching, you know, put the stuff in it. And then I noticed too that cooks were busier than the dickens, you know. So I decided, well, maybe if I volunteered, I maybe get a little more to eat. And sure enough, that worked out beautifully. So I made it a point to just, guy said, "You're crazy." I said, "The hell I am. I get to eat." And the cooks were glad to get another helper, you know. So whatever you want, Roy, whatever you want. And man, I was able to have a good time.
That's great.
I did. I feel proud to have served my country. I wouldn't want to have to go through again what I went through, but I'm happy that I was one helped out during the war.
Well, at the time, it wasn't a very good experience, but
No.
after discharge and back to the States and everything, and over the years, you look back on it with a lot of gratitude that you're glad you served the country and
Very true.
everything. A lot of good memories,
That's
but
true.
not at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the,
Well,
Joseph?
I'm proud that I joined up, and I'm proud that I was in the service. But, you know, like I said, I wouldn't wanna do it again.
I think that's about the way we all feel.
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I'm glad I volunteered, and it was quite an experience, and quite an experience.
I don't suppose very many of us, if any, feel like heroes.
Oh, I don't think.
We just,
My philosophy is that putting on the uniform doesn't make you a hero any more than
That's right.
putting on boxing gloves makes you the heavyweight champ, you know.
True.
There are all kinds of people who served. I guess I'm thankful for the chance to grow up and be there for my country, but I came through this life believing that war is not the answer. I think I don't believe we should necessarily be isolationists, but war doesn't solve it. And
No.
man will never learn that, I think.
There's one good thing about being a veteran, there was the GI Bill of Rights.
right,
It helped a lot of the war veterans get reestablished
It did.
in civilian life and learn a trade if they wanted to, or just basically to get reestablished.
Or buy a home.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the one good thing that veterans had.
That was very good.
yeah.
the young people today are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And I pray to God that they will be good leaders, because the good Lord knows that we need leadership.
That's very true.
I'll
Very
go
good.
along with that.
We sure need leadership.
That's right.
One thing that I constantly think of, and it saddens me, all of the buddies and good men you learn to live with didn't make it through the war or left behind.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
This is me right here, this is my friend, this is Shore.
He's thinking, he gave
That's
directions
Cruiser
for
there.
our artillery, took care of it.
Oh, you guys got
There's no sailors and no Marines.
Everybody's name